speak to Errol Mendes, a professor of international and constitutional law at the University of Ottawa. Good to have you with us. So what do you make of this development in Hong Kong? Suspected plotters in an alleged terror plot arrested, and 6 of them are said to be high school students, the youngest of them 15.
Right. It's very worrying because if, in fact, it's true that there was a terror plot, you're essentially seeing that some of the younger people in Hong Kong are getting desperate. And if they did intend to carry out these terrorist attacks, it really bodes ill in terms of what the future of Hong Kong will be if the way in which the security law has been implemented has pushed people to these extremes. So that being said, however, if they did intend this, then absolutely they have a right to be prosecuted. However, one should also look at the broader landscape that you have. For example, the owner of one of the largest newspapers, Apple, who basically was also arrested because essentially what the government is saying is you're free to publish, but as long as you publish stuff which we disagree with, you're going to be arrested. So unfortunately, we're seeing now this environment where people are being pushed more and more to essentially act against what essentially is becoming very much like the mainland China, a totalitarian state.
Right, and there's growing frustration, as you say, with the way this national security law is being used by China to crack down on opposition. Do you feel that what's happening in Hong Kong violates the one country, two systems principle?
Oh, absolutely. I think all the experts who have studied the actual agreement between China and Great Britain as to what would happen in this period between 40 years, which they would be handed over, they would be agreements not to do what is now happening. And so essentially what President Xi has done is said, look, I don't care about that time frame which was agreed upon. I want to basically move Hong Kong into mainland China. And people are now worrying that given else that's happening in terms of the 100 years celebration that's going on, that he's going to go even further. Because essentially what he sees this period as giving complete control to him and the Communist Party, not only over Hong Kong, but some now are worrying as to whether or not Taiwan could be next.
There's obviously been a lot of international condemnation of what's going on in Hong Kong. The UK is extremely concerned about what's going on in Hong Kong, as are other Western nations. Will that make any difference? Is there any redress in this, or is Beijing free to simply go on as it is?
Well, what we're seeing now in this part of the 21st century is something not dissimilar from what we saw at the start of the Cold War, where you had two great superpowers essentially saying to each other, we were going to outrival you, and because we have the power, in one case in terms of the Soviet Union, nuclear power, in the case of America, both nuclear power and economic power, we're going to basically take you head on. What we're seeing now is the equivalent of that happening between the United States and its democratic allies in China. And China now feels that it is so strong in terms of its economy and its increasing military power that it's willing to take on essentially the rest of the democratic world. It's extremely worrying. I actually see this as almost akin to the beginning of a very dangerous Cold War type atmosphere.
Errol, thank you very much indeed for sharing your thoughts with us. Errol Mendes there in Ottawa.